All right, girls. We've just spent the last of our savings. The rent check just bounced. The car payments past due, but goddammit, we're in New York and we're gonna find love. Who wants to do brunch?
Now hold on a second, you just said, wait, time out. You just said the rent check bounced, you dumb skank, and you want to get lunch. I'm sorry, what?
Whoa!
We're sharing a car payment now?
We all live in the same car.
Yeah, we don't even have an apartment at this.
Yeah.
Welcome to Jabbermouths.
We just live in an RV parked on the side street of
No, we live in a
somewhere.
sedan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can't afford an RV. What do you mean?
Whoa,
rich white women.
Mr. No.
I'm JD.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Barrett, what the fuck? Why the f*** do you move to a city for love? That's one of the central themes of this god-awful movie. Christ, what the f***? I did not move to Los Angeles for love. I don't know about you guys.
I moved to Los Angeles for money.
Yes.
Same.
And so far it hasn't helped.
Right.
I mean, it helped like $3.
I make less money than I did in Colorado by a wide margin. Let's not
I
talk about
make
it.
more.
Let's not
Yeah,
talk
I
about
also
it.
make more. Anyway, not enough more.
That's fair. That's fair. This week we decided to watch the 2010 movie.
2000.
It's 2010. I will bet you money it's 2010.
2008.
The
Yeah,
blank movie, or maybe it was the second one that was 2010. I could be wrong. We watched the Sex and the City movie. What was it on? What streaming
It was
platform?
on Netflix,
It was
which
Netflix?
is kind of weird. And then it says that it's
really?
leaving in March, so I assume HBO's finally reclaiming like the rights or something.
Yeah, it was an HBO movie originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an HBO series originally.
2008, yeah.
Okay, it's 2008.
Woo!
The sequel
Sex and
came
the
out.
City was, that was 2010.
Beautiful.
The sequel was
Beautiful.
10.
We had never even... We knew that this franchise existed, right? We knew the show existed. We'd never seen it. At least I haven't. I'm assuming neither of you have. You know what that doesn't excuse? Spending the first 22-ish minutes of this movie of a 2-hour and 35-minute movie. We'll talk about the runtime in a minute. Is it 2 hours 25? Are you sure?
Yeah, it was 2 hours 25.
It may have felt like an eternity.
Okay, way too long. But the first 20 some odd minutes of this movie is just basically recapping the events of the show up until this point. We have to do this whole 10-minute montage of everybody's life throughout the show to get to this point, and then another 10 minutes of setting up all the characters on top of that. Right? Why did we need any of that? All I could sit there thinking shortly after watching this movie was, oh well, maybe they did that just to show everybody who never watched the show what these characters went through.
But first of all, why would I watch this movie if I didn't watch the show?
Right, two things with that.
Because you're recording a podcast on it?
Yeah, but that was fucking 12 years later. 13 years later. Anyways, the issue with that is, to Baird's point, the demographic for this movie is the people who watch the show. So why do I need 25 minutes of fucking exposition about the last 10 years of a show that I've been watching, right?
Yeah.
And the second issue with that is, you don't need it. Have you thought about this for a second? Even if you just take out that first, 15 minutes of montage,
Yeah.
this movie makes perfect fucking sense. I don't need these people's lives up until this point to understand that you two are married and it's clearly deteriorating. You two are married and you're a sociopath. You two want to get married, but you don't really do labels that well, so you're trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
I didn't need that. I didn't need 15 minutes to wrap my head around that.
Which one's the sociopath?
The one who gets pregnant.
Oh, the racist.
Oh,
The pregnant racist lady.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
a sociopath.
Charlotte.
Charlotte's a sociopath, and I will argue that tooth and nail. She's also one of my favorite characters in this movie. I think number one is definitely Samantha, though. I think Samantha is my favorite in the group. Samantha is the Hollywood sex addict.
Yeah, I mean...
Right? She's Hollywood incarnate.
Though let me explain. I hate all of them.
They're all
I hate all of
They're
them.
all terrible. I like them because they're terrible, right? And I don't know if that... I don't mean like that. I like to watch terrible things happen to these people.
That's true, but the difference is
when Charlotte shits herself, halfway through the movie. That's not true. She shits herself a third of the way through the movie because this shit is way too long.
Well, because basically it was just 3 episodes stitched together, and they said, let's make a movie.
It's very true.
The cinematography is the same as the show. There's nothing that really changes. The characters aren't out of their element, typically, like with most movies. You know, when a TV show transitions to a film, usually it's the characters in a new area out of their own depth.
Right, a lot of
That's
the time the
point. But this
stereotype is
just
they
3
go
episodes.
to a random country or something like that, or they go to a
And
whole
they
new
spend
location.
20 minutes in Mexico, and that's it.
No, it's like 30. It's like 30 or 35
No, it's not.
minutes. It's long. It's way longer than it should be.
I think it's like 20 minutes.
It's a lot.
Because it's a tiny portion of the film.
It's way longer than it should be, including like the 30-second montage of her throwing the fucking phone into the ocean.
Yeah.
Of Carrie, our main character. Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, our main character.
Here's the thing.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
They're all terrible.
Sarah. Anyway.
Face.
Oh, that's
so
oh my
mean.
god, just
I'm
imagine.
so glad we didn't touch that throughout the movie.
Yeah, we're class act boys, and I know.
But yeah,
Sure we
and yet on
Sure we
recording,
are.
we're touching it now.
Well, I don't really have anything against her as a person, so I don't know
either.
why I would
Her,
bring it up.
her and her
I don't know why I
husband are
bring it up.
both amazing.
Yeah, I don't really know where that comes from.
I don't know.
She seems
Like-
chill. I don't really.
Maybe she pulled some shit in like the 2000s.
Maybe
or
I don't
something.
know. I don't follow.
But she seems
but
fine now.
Here's the thing about
Good
them
for
all
her.
being terrible people. Why it's not entertaining? It's because they still win at the end. They
Yeah.
still everything happens.
Yeah.
Versus Always Sunny, they're god awful and they suffer for it, and that's fun.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why shows like Seinfeld succeeded, right? Is because at
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the end they go to fucking prison.
Yeah.
Right? They have to pay amends for all the horrible things that they've done throughout the entire show, and that's fun to watch. Because in Seinfeld, they're terrible human beings. They are
Yeah.
awful people.
And in Sex and the
And
City,
then
it's more
10
of-
years later, Kramer would prove it in real life and drop the N word. Anyway.
then Sex and the City, they just kind of go, "Hey, we're wealthy white women. You should like us." Why?
Yeah,
You're the bane of everything I hate. You're just
Yeah, and I get that that's like supposed to be part of the enticing nature of the show is that they're like stereotypical rich women.
I can't relate to your
and
issues.
we-
I want to hit
we
you.
Are, we are not the demographic for this.
Not
this
at all.
Show
Well,
or movie.
I guess the only thing that I actually would have liked from the exposition is to know like the beginning of the show. Like that's
Yeah.
all I want to know is like who they were at the very first episode of the show.
Yeah.
And then now. Right? Because
Yeah.
then I could make some sort of summation of like, oh, here's how you've actually changed. You weren't always like this, maybe. You know? And now we're just getting the mutilated version of you 10 years down the line.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when the show started, they're supposed to be in like their 20s, right?
No, it's supposed to be in their 30s.
Right.
When the show started?
Yeah.
Why do they even talk about being in their 20s? Whatever. They reference throughout the movie. They reference their 20s like that was a part of the show. So that's why I made that connection that apparently didn't exist. This was so hard to get through that about 40 minutes in, we had to pause it and pour ourselves drinks and begin
And
drinking
then we laughed.
every
We yelled.
time
We genuinely yelled when we
that
saw
someone said
Yeah.
something
that
stupid.
there was
Yeah.
an hour and 45 minutes left.
It was.
Black Hole was boring, but at least like Black Hole and
I still wouldn't watch Black Hole over this though.
Well,
I wouldn't watch either of these movies to be frank,
no,
but
like
Yeah.
but if I'm like tied to a chair and it's either, they rip
Sex
my
and the City
incisors
or-
out,
No,
or
just imagine
Black Hole or Sex in the City, it's a very tough choice between Sex in the City
Imagine-
and ripping my incisors out.
you get kidnapped and somebody says, "All right, you have to watch Sex and the City, the movie, or the Black Hole." And of course, my only response is going to be, "Holy shit, you listen to my podcast! Thank you, thank you."
Okay, that was pretty good.
No, but, like-
that's pretty good.
Black Hole was boring, right?
Yes.
And what was
Unbelievably
the other,
so.
What was the other boring movie? The other movie that felt like it went on for.
I
way
mean,
too
Jack the
long.
Giant Slayer went on way too long, and there was slews of it where we were
Yeah.
all looking at our phone.
Yeah.
The
But,
Lightning Thief, there was moments where we were all looking at our phone.
But
core.
at least in
the
all
core,
of
the core was stupid though. Like, and it tried hard enough that it was funny. You know what I mean?
the
This didn't do that
Well,
for
and,
me.
like-
It's very few and far between that there were good moments in this movie.
the question that kept coming up is how much longer is there? Right? How much farther can you go?
There were moments where we were
Which I
like,
don't
"This
feel
is
like we
where the
got-
movie could end,"
Yeah.
but there was 35
said,
minutes of the film left.
It's 3 episodes stitched together because there are just too many plot lines
There were
that
so
don't
many.
fit into a film.
They introduce another character an
Halfway
hour
through.
and 15 minutes
Yeah.
into this movie. What the fuck is that? Also, the only principal black character,
Which is why you
isn't
could argue
introduced.
technically it is the magical Negro character because it helps
She
get
kind of
Carrie's
is.
life back on track.
She totally is, because she, I love. I mean, this is me, maybe reaching a small amount. I love how the only principal black character is the poorest of all of them, for one, by a wide margin, by the way. And she shows up, makes Carrie's life infinitely better, and then leaves.
Yeah.
That's all she does. That is
mean,
her
she does get
entire.
married.
She's
She only
you're
works
right.
as
She
her
gets
assistant for
married.
6
she,
months.
she gets
Right.
she gets a happy ending.
She deserves a happy ending.
Yeah.
And
She
she
deserves
gets it.
way more than
It's just like
the movie
interesting
gives her.
that they decided to bring her in essentially to be a plot device for Carrie and then leave.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna come in, have your own story that's off to the side that we don't focus on too much, right? You get your happy ending, but you get your happy ending over there in the corner where the main story isn't. Right? And I get that that's not necessarily the idea of the film to begin with. She's not like the front and center main character. It's just weird that there is an overwhelming lack of diversity in this film, and I get that it's 2008, but that doesn't necessarily excuse it in my mind.
Yeah.
We have a Jew.
Yeah, but that's New York. You can take
Jew,
one step and there's a Jew.
Right, we have one Jew and two gay guys. That's what we got. We got one Jew and two gay guys.
Who actually kiss in the movie.
They do, which is nice.
Which is
and they were characters in the show too. I think both of them were.
Yeah, they were.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't know. I think they were.
It's
very over the top, but it's whatever. I didn't mind that too much.
2008.
Over the top gay friend and other gay friend. I don't know what the bald gay guy.
I don't know what either of their names are.
Keep in mind, yes, we're obviously insensitive human beings when it comes to talking about movies that we do on this podcast. But part of why we don't know the names of a lot of these male characters is because of how insignificant they are.
Or rarely said they are.
Yeah, they're so
Dante?
Even the one who cheats on his wife in this movie and is a huge plot
Joe.
Point of it. One of them is Dante.
Steven!
Which one?
Steven cheats on his wife.
Steve cheats on his wife.
Steve's the cheater, yes. But even his plot, like even he as a character is relatively insignificant throughout this movie.
And they just
in terms of like screen time and dialogue. Yeah, no, he just says it. Where are you going? He just laughed and walked off. Anyway.
Let me just go through. I just want to run through the plot so everyone understands. So I'm going to do... Yeah, so...
can I chime in as you go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah,
so, the film starts and the Roy centers around, hey, Carrie and her boyfriend, Mr. Big. There's no Big in his name. She just calls him that.
Well, they all call him that. Is it? Maybe it's
weird.
because like she was trying to keep his anonymity. I can't say this word to save my life. Anonymity. Because she's an author, right? She's a famous author. The main character, Carrie.
And he's a banker.
Maybe she was trying to keep his anonymity.
I thought he was a lawyer.
At the beginning.
I don't give a shit anymore. Do you?
He is a lawyer.
Just trying to think about this film makes me want to kill myself.
Because they unapologetic. Sorry, we'll get to that point. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, so, they're looking for an apartment, and then he's like, alright, fine, let's get married. Plotline.
Well, they get married because Carrie is insecure that if they broke up, she wouldn't have any assets in their new apartment because he's the one who bought it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they get married so that it's legally both of theirs.
Yeah,
right? That's the plan.
So she has a big wedding. Miranda's husband cheats on her.
Well, Mr. Big didn't want to have a big wedding.
It's true. Yeah. He didn't at all.
Mr. Big didn't want to have a big wedding.
She's like, great, it's going to be 200 people. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Because at the beginning it was supposed to be 75. Because you can't have 76.
Yes, gay best friend is like, 76 is tacky, but 75 is classy. Anyway.
And they ended up going to 200.
A small wedding of only 75 people.
Sorry, and then Brad. He got nervous.
You got cold feet.
He had cold feet, and he wanted to talk to her, but she wouldn't talk to him. And so, of course, he's like, hey, man, I just don't know if I can do this. This is a lot.
The child ruins the entire... The
child steals a phone.
Who never gets in trouble for it.
It's a kid.
You know?
How are you going to fault the kid that much? She left her fucking phone out. I mean...
Well, I'm going to fault all the other women more than the kid because none of them thought to go... We're 25 minutes late. We should tell Mr. Big that we're gonna be late. Oh no!
Yeah, they never told anybody that they were gonna be late to the venue.
The wedding planner isn't even like...
Yeah, no one's left it on the loop.
And Mr. Big is trying to blow up Carrie's phone to be like, hey, we need to talk about this. I don't know if I'm ready to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
So anyway... So, after that, the wedding's off. She's all depressed. The girls go with her on her honeymoon trip to Mexico. Right. Mexico, blah, blah, blah. Casual racism. We'll get to that.
Casual racism. 30-second montage of her throwing the goddamn phone. Mr. Big tries to call and leave a message. So
really
she throws
tacky, like pink rhinestone phone.
Yeah, so
tacky.
She even by 2008 standards, that was pretty tacky. She tries to throw her phone in the ocean. She succeeds in throwing her phone in the ocean, but we see, slow motion of it. And
wash
a
up
couple
on
different
shore.
Angles of it, and it's just very tacky. It's really bad cinematography.
All right, they get back. She's trying to move on with her life. She meets her magical Negro. She dyes her hair.
Am I going to have to bleep it when you keep saying it? Do I ever have to bleep that? I don't think I'm going to
have to. It's an actual film stereotype. You can look it up.
Stereotype.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember the first time that one of our professors said that in class, and everyone in the room for a second, because we didn't know the term yet, we were all saying...
Everyone went...
And there's a whole... there's a whole Key and Peele bit on it of the two Janesons fighting each other.
It is a film trope. It is a term.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we are not
To clarify, for the people who don't know, this is a film term that is commonly used to show a horrible stereotype that has perpetuated in cinema. It's not us trying to be insensitive. That's just the term for the terrible thing that older films have done and have kind of changed in recent years.
And then, they go back. She gets her life on track. Miranda gets back with her husband, Steve, after he cheats on her.
Because
Charlotte has a baby.
Well, I'm going to go in depth with those characters later.
Samantha, realizes, hey, we've been in this relationship for 5 years, but I'm unhappy, so I'm out, and I respect that. And then at the end...
she gets dicked down by Dante.
No, she doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
She's going to get dicked down by Dante.
She never gets dicked down by Dante.
I'm willing to bet good money that before she left, she got dicked down by Dante. We're going to talk about this.
We saw penis.
You do see penis in this movie.
Yeah.
That's very progressive for 2008.
And then at the end, Carrie and Mr. Big get married, and here's the best part, really. They look at the camera and just say, we wasted an hour and a half of your life. Because literally every single conflict that happened is immediately wrapped up. Mm-hmm. And you sat here for 2 hours and 25 fucking minutes.
And it took the last 10 minutes of the movie to wrap up every plot line.
Yeah.
Every plot line. 10 minutes.
I'm angry.
I'm going to do a little snap for the mic. Just
snap,
so just wrapped up. It was ridiculous. So let's go through and let's talk about, I feel like this is a wise way of attacking this. Let's go through each character couple and talk about why they're fucking awful. Who do we want to start with? Do we want to do Carrie and Mr. Big? Do we want to do Charlotte?
We might as well do Carrie and Mr. Big.
Yeah, Carrie and Mr. Big first, the main characters. Carrie.
Mr. Big's cool. I like Mr. Big. He's a chill fucking guy.
But and don't get me wrong, this is partially because this is a movie about women, right? With women in the main roles.
White women.
Designed
wealthy
for women.
Specifically wealthy
rich white women.
Rich, rich preppy bitch white women.
Yeah.
I'm going to say bitch a little bit. And I don't mean bitch in like that girl is being such a bitch to you, Ethan. Yeah, I don't mean that. I mean like preppy bitch in that it's about me and only about me and it should be about me. And so it's not like I see it in a negative way. I spent the last 49 years
working on myself and I need to keep working on it.
Right, yeah. I've been in a relationship with myself for 49 years and that's who I need to spend more time with. And
you sound toxic as fuck.
You've been in that relationship for 5 years, just gonna, on a whim, just go fuck you, whatever. We're on Carrie and Mr. Big. Mr. Big is almost non-existent in this film. Mm-hmm. He is supposed to be one of the principal characters of this film, right? The whole the whole catalyst of the main plot is this wedding, right? That doesn't happen and then eventually does happen and whatever. But Mr. Big is there occasionally, up until the wedding. We don't see from the moment that the wedding gets called off, we don't see him for almost 40 minutes after that moment.
He also doesn't have any friends, and I feel bad for him.
And he has no friends, right? Because that's the other piece we talked about.
He's a partner at the law firm.
But all the law firm people are douchebags.
Are dicks.
Right? They're at the original engagement party. Or like the night before a party. The rehearsal dinner. And this is Mr. Big's third wedding. Mm-hmm. You know what's one of the meanest things you can possibly fucking say at somebody's third wedding? Yeah. Hey man, maybe this one will stick.
Yeah.
Right? Saying shit like that. Don't do that. I mean,
if you're good friends, like if we're like, I would say for the closeness of us.
I'm still not going to say it. I wouldn't say it in front of your fiance, right? Yeah. I wouldn't say it in front of your fiance's friends. I wouldn't say it basically in a toast scenario because another girl, Samantha, was trying to give a toast and that partner, cut her off to say that mean thing.
But in casual conversation,
Mark's a cunt. In a casual conversation, it's fine. But between us, I think that's, we're on a different level of connection, right? To do that in a public setting, in that specific public setting, I think was very disrespectful. Unbelievably disrespectful.
Fucking white people, man.
And that's one of the only, one of 3 moments in the whole movie that we actually, all went, yeah, that was right. Mm-hmm. When Samantha doesn't hesitate to be like, hey, you dickhead, shut up.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that moment. God forbid I enjoyed another one for the next 50 minutes of this movie. So that's kind of Mr. Big's character. Non-existent and kind of a pushover.
And then for Carrie, it's just more about...
It's all about her.
She's unbelievably self-centered. Yeah. And it took her... Part of why Mr. Big gets the cold feet is because it was supposed to be a 75-person wedding, but Carrie, right, keeps making this all about her. A bigger dress, bigger amount of people, crazy venue.
Yep.
Mr. Big just wanted a simple wedding. He was like, I'd be happy going to a courthouse, you know? And that's part of why he gets the cold feet. It isn't until an hour and 40 minutes into the movie that she actually reflects on that. Mm-hmm. And even begins to admit that maybe she had a role in that.
That is literally the last 15 minutes. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not till then that she's like...
It's at the Valentine's
scene. It's partially my fault.
Because that's when...
She blames Miranda.
Miranda.
Is that who that name is?
I think...
Her name's not Miranda.
It's Miranda. The redhead's Miranda.
Okay. We'll talk about Miranda next then. But yeah, so Carrie's unbelievably self-centered, and she fixes it in the last 10 minutes, and they ended up getting married at a courthouse. Kind of fixes it in the last 10 minutes, and they move back into the big old apartment together, and
that
whatever.
they were actually they sold the apartment.
Mr. Big sold the apartment. He
and
bought the apartment.
And there was somebody who bought the apartment.
Well, they rescinded it. I think that they were still in that time frame where you can rescind the offer.
No. Because they're like, we're about to change the locks. Like, we need to leave before the new owners show up at the end of the movie.
That's true.
Are you telling me
they bought back the apartment?
They bought back the apartment as the people are moving in?
I mean, Mr. Big
I'd fucking sue.
Mr. Big is like superficially, unbelievably rich in this movie. So he probably just turned around and said, "Hey, I'll throw you $100,000 or something like that," and they went, "Sure." I mean, if you were about to move into an apartment and someone said...
That I spent $4.5 million on? Because that's probably what that penthouse is worth.
Well, I think it's a monthly thing.
No.
You think they were buying it?
I think they were
buying it.
Well, okay. Given I'm catching myself up on that context. So let's say that's the context and someone goes, I understand you're buying this $4 million apartment. May I give you $5.5 million for it?
That's different.
Right. I didn't understand the context.
If they gave me $4.6 million, I'd be like, no, fuck that shit.
Right, but if he turns around and goes, let me give you $5 million for it.
Okay, sure.
Right? I'll give you a $600,000 profit or something like that, right? You say yes.
Yeah.
And it's Mr. Big. I mean, he's in this movie, and I'm sure in the show's the same way. He has unemptiable pockets. So that's probably what that was.
I would have just been like, no, we're going and living in your apartment because you a bitch.
I mean, if you're a really petty person, I guess. But $600,000 though, I'd find somewhere else to live for $600,000.
No, I'm just talking about Mr. Big. Like I'd be like, yeah, I get that I built this for you, but you also ruined 6 months of my life because you wouldn't talk to me and we couldn't.
It was more than that. It was the whole pregnancy, basically. It was Charlotte's whole pregnancy. Because she was not in. Because she had.
I guess
if she found out she was pregnant, it must have been right because she.
We didn't even. Out she's pregnant like.
Right before the honeymoon.
No, right after the honeymoon.
No, because she was eating the pudding cups on the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Remember?
And the water.
Oh,
and the water. And she didn't want to touch the water. We're talking about this, you racist bitch, Charlotte. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of got that all done now, right? Let's talk about
Mr. Big is we feel sad for Mr. Big and Carrie's all about herself.
Kind of. I mean, he's still staying in the relationship, so it's like, you did this to yourself a little bit.
And then we move on to Steve and Miranda. Brooklyn Steve. He has the only New York accent in the whole movie.
Yeah, so I felt most bad for these guys at the beginning because you can clearly tell that their marriage is starting to deteriorate, and it's not so much on Steve. They give these early red flags when it's clear that Steve still wants to have that passionate loving in his life.
Let's just get it over with.
That's the line that like
Miranda
uses.
They're having sex, and she goes, let's just get it over with.
Right? We have to work. We have to get up in 5 hours.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. That's a logical thing to say. That I get it. But, when it comes to a relationship, logic isn't supposed to be the only thing on your mind, right? And that's the thing, the narrative that they're pushing. And so Steve, feeling alienated in this relationship and starting to feel it turn sour and not feeling loved,
neglected,
cheats on Miranda. It doesn't ever show it. Doesn't ever show her meeting anybody.
It just says one day, I cheated on you and I'm sorry.
And it only happened once. It'll never happen again. Obviously, correctly, Miranda says, "Hey, go fuck yourself. I'm very mad at you. We're gonna be separated for a while. I'm gonna find my own place to live." And I think that that's a perfectly logical response.
Yep.
Why Miranda sucks is she talks with Steve. And she had no business doing this. Granted, it was a quick reaction, but she had no business doing this. She talks with Steve outside of the rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
Which only pisses her off more.
Because she wouldn't return any of his calls, and that's
right.
He knew.
But I mean, it's not like she owed that to him.
But in a way, they do need to communicate that though, because they need to figure out the custody of a child.
That I agree with.
So that is where you have to.
Right. All I'm saying is it's a gray area, right? It's not like this whole situation is definitely not black and white. And I mean, I'll give it props. It's not a black and white situation in real life, right? So I think they both handled it poorly.
Well, I think Steve is at least respectful about it. Like, hey...
Steve is trying to be super respectful. Like, he shows up at this party because he knows Miranda will be there.
But he doesn't barge in.
Right, he doesn't barge into the party. He makes a point to be like, this is where I knew she would be. May I please talk to her? I'm not trying to mess up your party.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to mess with this. This is your night. but this is the only way that I could feasibly think of to at least have a conversation with this person to try to figure some shit out. Please. And she does. And it goes poorly. And she sees Mr. Big and makes the fucking golden decision to say, marriage is stupid and you shouldn't get it. You shouldn't do it. And that's Mr. Big, who is a weak man.
But the logic isn't there.
Right, and Mr. Big, who is a weak man, immediately starts rethinking. I don't think he's a weak
man.
I think he
was already thinking.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying like he was already starting to get the cold feet.
The butterflies.
Right, and it was just hearing that perpetuated it and pushed the narrative in his mind, which I don't blame Miranda that much for, to be honest. He was already thinking it, and he just needed to hear it, right?
Well, and she's in a very vulnerable emotional spot.
And also, there are a lot of times throughout the film that her friends just kind of rag on her, and she just wants support, but they just kind of immediately, like, smack her across the face. So, like, when she's, like, having, like in two of the scenes, the most, like, were one of the brunch scenes, where she's like, where could it have gone wrong? And then when she said, like, hey, we've just been so busy, we haven't been able to have, like, sex in 6 months, and they all kind of immediately lunge, like, what are you doing? Or then also when they go to Mexico, and she just hasn't really trimmed down there when they're wearing bathing suits, so you can see like her pubes through her bathing suit. They immediately
Samantha literally just
like, you can't have that, and it's like I understand why she kind of lashes out because you guys aren't really supportive.
They're really mean.
You can't really lunge at the
Miranda.
throat.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Miranda has become a rather crass individual, but I feel like when you're a mother of kids and your husband has cheated on you.
And she seems like she's the hardest working of all of them. At least her job is constantly go, go, go.
Well, did you see the apartment that she moved into when they separated? It wasn't a nice apartment. I think that...
It was nice by our standards.
Yes, but by their standards. Like, well, yeah, but you hear them talking about it, right? They were like, hey, you see Chinese writing, that's a bad idea, right?
That was also racist.
Oh, it's extremely racist.
Oh, yeah, because in the scene where they're trying to, she's trying to, find another apartment.
She literally says, Chinatown. White guy with kid.
Oh, white guy with kid, follow him. We'll see where he's going. That's where we'll live. And it's like, racist.
Yeah, that's really bad. Don't get me wrong. It's like I said, I hate Miranda still. I hate them all. But, economically speaking, I'm just saying, I feel like she's on a lower rung than the rest of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know how...
I don't know what she does. I don't know what Steve does. I don't know what either of them do. You know why? Because no one cares about these fucking characters. They care about Carrie and Mr. Big, and I feel like that's
They have to have enough money to,
live in New York.
And be fancy bougie clothes.
Which is why I wonder. But at the same point, you see him fancy bougie clothes in, a Target.
You know what's interesting, though?
Shopping for Halloween shit, eventually.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what's interesting, though? I just thought of this. Miranda always... keeps talking about she just doesn't have time for her husband Steve, but then she always has times for these bar dates and brunch dates and all these dates with her girls, and it's just like, wait a minute, you're telling me you don't have time for him?
Yeah, Miranda sucks.
You have time for him or your son outside of work? Excuse me.
Right.
You need to have time for your friends, but you
have a family now.
Lifelong partner.
Right, you have a family now. That is not. I don't look. I love you guys, I really do. But if I ever decide to get married and have a child. They become number one priority.
Yeah,
right. Not from a legal standpoint, from a moral standpoint, they are now number one priority. I've decided.
Right.
Yeah, but a toddler can't play Magic the Gathering Commander, so checkmate.
No, but I leave you in an alley, and you find a way home. I leave him in an alley, or her, or they. I go to jail. Right? Like that's.
Christ, has that been the first laugh of the episode? Jesus.
No, we've laughed a bit. We've laughed a couple times.
A lot.
I don't know. This one is, if nothing else, this has been a very content-filled episode. We have not tangent once on this so far because there's so much bullshit. There's so much bullshit to unpack with this. Okay, Steve, we haven't touched because we don't see him really, other than hey, I cheated, and then he's gone.
And I'm sorry.
And in the last 10 minutes, they come together.
They go to council
because New Year's happened.
Yeah.
Right? They come together and decide
because little babies had kiss, which was adorable.
Yes. Yeah, and Valentine's Day happened too. Where Carrie and who was still single at the time and Miranda decided to go on a date together just to spend time together because they're both single. Where Miranda tells Carrie the main thing she said at the rehearsal dinner. Yeah. Carrie flips out on her and then and Carrie says something that is supposed to be mean, but actually, fixes Miranda's situation. Yeah. When Carrie goes, I was rooting for you and Steve. I think you should forgive him and try to figure this out because you are not a saint. And walks off. Yeah. And instead of Miranda being hurt by that, Miranda goes, holy shit. Holy shit, she's right.
Right?
Yeah, which I think, not a bad way of doing it, to be honest, from a narrative standpoint. I'll give you one little pointer, or one little point, Sex in the City. But Steve and Miranda decide, hey, counseling, we're going to forgive each other and try to work through this.
Well, then they do if you both show up at the same point on the bridge.
Yes, and they both do. Who would have fucking guessed? And then they have really steamy sex. Again, a positive about this movie. Doesn't shy on the nudity. I enjoyed that. A lot of tits. For a very feminine, quote-unquote feminine movie. There's a lot. I'm saying when we see them, it is graphic. Yeah, there is some sensual banging going on. Especially Dante, who is Samantha's neighbor. We'll talk about Samantha next, I guess, since that's the segue. I think we've wrapped up Miranda and Steve.
Miranda and Steve separate and then get back together.
That's basically what happens. Samantha Hollywood is a big Hollywood talent manager, I think. Right?
No, I thought you just married Rich.
No. She manages the actor that she's dating.
Yeah.
She's not married. She's not married to him.
Oh.
Yeah.
She manages a really famous Hollywood actor, which is why she bounces from Hollywood to New York a ton. I'm guessing that's not how it was at the beginning of the show.
No, they all,
Yeah, all lived in New York. Makes sense. Samantha's my favorite. I hate them all, but I hate her the least. Because she's the most independent, most straightforward. Granted, she's a nymphomaniac. That's fair.
Starts spying on her neighbors. That's kind of messed up.
Yeah, she lives beachfront property, and I'm assuming somewhere in like maybe Malibu or Santa Monica or something like that. Her next door neighbor, this dude Dante, who's ripped,
who doesn't own blinds for fuck's sake,
right?
And
even then,
he leaves the door open.
He pulls some chick's fucking bikini off on the beach,
in the middle of the beach.
I'm imagining some other neighbors like, "Hey, my fucking kid's out here, dude.
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But he fucks a different girl. Right.
Okay.
He fucks a different girl every night. And she makes a point to sit in her jacuzzi and just watch.
Yeah.
And just fucking watch it happen.
And not even like I'm just like looking at the corner of my eye. No, it's like
full on watching.
Right. And Dante,
like mouth open.
Not Dante. What is even the name of her boyfriend? He's probably seen the least of any of the. That's not true. Charlotte's husband has probably seen the least. But he I don't know. I don't fault him at all.
Blonde man.
He's a very good actor who has a lot of work, and it should be understood that sometimes on film sets, it goes late.
Yeah.
It goes late, and you have to deal with that. And she knew that because she manages for him, right? You okay over there?
I just hate this film so much.
All right, you talk about Samantha for a little bit. I'm gonna bring you back in. Tell me more about Samantha.
Well, I guess her whole thing is that, she doesn't want to be tamed, and while I respect that, I just feel like she always just goes about it kind of in the worst way. Or I guess, if anything, she is kind of the example of, I guess, the people I dislike the most of just, like, on a whim, she can pretty much just, like, I have the money, I can do whatever I want. Doesn't really make me, like, feel relatable to this character at all. And then, I guess, once again, there's the moment later on where her whole arc is to realize, hey, I'm not supposed to be a Smith. Like, it's been 5 years, it's been fun, but, I'm a single lady, I respect that. My only big gripe I remember also is, like, they, like, once again, like, the friend group is pretty toxic. Where, like, she decides to eat a little bit. I know, God forbid she decides to eat, and then, like, when she shows up in New York, she has a little bit of a tummy, and everyone's like, what is that? Oh my God!
Yeah, she is.
And it's like,
gains the smallest amount of weight, like
smallest amount
barely
possible.
Any, like shit that I would see on a girl and be like, "That's healthy. She's doing well. She's doing great."
Yeah, and they just went, "That's disgusting."
You've gone from underweight to correct weight.
Yeah. It was stupid.
It was. Yeah, and just immediately watch that.
And then she decides to just move back to New York after breaking up with her Hollywood boyfriend. I will argue though. So we see Dante's dick in this movie, and I refuse to believe that she didn't fuck Dante before she left. I refuse.
I want to touch on the...
Because he's just like outside showering naked.
Yeah, but I want to touch on Smith because he is a Hollywood actor that she manages.
Yes.
She knows that shit runs late all the time.
If she's a fucking talent manager, she understands the ins and outs of film. Barrett was bringing this up a bunch. Yeah. Like, you can't be fucking mad because he was on 2 hours late on a set. There's nothing he can do about that.
I actually had that in film school with I remember one of my significant others who wasn't in film, and I remember she would always get frustrated. Like, well, what's taking so long? I'm like, I'm still on set, and she's like, well, can't you just leave? No, I can't just leave.
It's not
I gotta stay.
Right, it's not like
I gotta
an
finish
hourly...
the shoot day.
That's one thing a lot of people don't get about the film world. One of the many things right? Unless you're on like a super big union set, and even then, sometimes it's like this. A lot of the time, it's like this. We don't have the shot yet. I know we were supposed to be done at 9 p.m., but we don't have the shot. And there's a lot of money riding on this going well.
Well, it's the same thing I always hate with like a lot of like YouTube like amateur film reviewers are always like, everything starts to be focus group crap. I'm like, well, we need to make money back. We need to make a lot of money back on these $1 million assignments. So
I don't know about you, but if I invested $130 million into something, I would want to know as like to the most furthest amount of certainty that I was going to recoup that money, right?
Yeah.
Plus a profit,
Which is weird how we get like Mortal Engines and Jack and the Beanstalk.
Jack and the Giant Slayer
made its money back, but like,
it does. It's formulaic, and sometimes the formula doesn't work because there isn't a real formula, right? There is in the sense that if you do this, most of the time it works, but sometimes it just doesn't.
But also, don't tell me at the same time that hey, this little indie thing is a masterpiece. Like, there are sometimes where it's like, hey, this is a phenomenal film, but then there are a lot of times I've noticed, like, a couple times in film school when, sometimes no, this is the correct film, this is the right film. Like, that was boring as shit. Yeah. No, you just didn't see it right. No, don't tell me as the audience what I did and didn't see.
That's why we had a colleague in film school. I don't feel like reaching out to see if he's okay with us saying his name, so I'm not gonna. But, I hope I love you if you ever listen to this. You won't, but if you ever do.
You won't. You're not on social media.
I love the dude to death. Yeah. But every time we talked about a film, it was always him ragging on it. Because we're just like, well, it's incorrect for this reason, or it's not done the right way for this reason, and
why
that's
do you judge me? Why can't?
It came down to this. I was like, what in your film or in your mind, what film deserves an A+? He's like, A+ doesn't exist. You go for perfection or for perfection, but you never obtain it. And I was like, that's the dumbest way, right? Because there's movies to you that are amazing, right? That's what love is, right? Not everybody loves your significant other because there's flaws to that person. You see past those flaws because the things you love about it are so much better. There's a reason why we love the Fast and Furious franchise, right?
Fast and Furious!
Right? You see what I'm saying? It's because it's got a lot of problems, but that's what makes it special. It's stupid and dumb, and
it knows what it is, and it's entertaining.
It's actually funny is that I actually broke him. It was during junior and senior year where he officially came to the conclusion he could not debate me because a lot of times like, Bear, why would you watch this? Because I like it, and that's it. And I would just always say that, and he eventually broke him to the point where he even admitted junior year, he's like, yeah, I can't debate you because I know if you just like something, you just like it. I'm like, exactly. If I like it, I like it. That's
and there's nothing wrong.
Very true. I think it was more just what he liked he hadn't found yet. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that's his big thing. Because they felt like he just found issues with everything he'd ever seen. Even stuff like The Shawshank Redemption, which are like revered as some of the most amazing films ever made, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah. Anyway, Samantha Dunn. We're 38 minutes in. I'm gonna speed run Charlotte real quick.
She's racist.
When we go to Mexico, she refuses to eat the fruit or drink the water because it's Mexico. Even though they're on a very expensive, very stylish resort that has pre-screened all of these things clearly, and she refuses to do it still. Partially because there's a little bit of racial profiling, but also
because we believe she knows she's pregnant, so she's trying to, I guess,
avoid
packaged
foods.
Eat as clean as physically possible.
I feel like pudding, the pudding could also just be a craving thing from the pregnancy.
Right. Also true.
Well, she's
craving pudding.
Yeah, but like
but it feels very racially insensitive.
Like without knowing,
without putting that thought together.
Okay, yeah. I get it.
Very racially insensitive.
She's also it's Mexico.
It's Mexico.
Right.
Then why did she come here? What?
Yes, and she's very quick to jump to conclusions and be very yelly and panicky, and she's overall unbelievably annoying as a character.
And I just don't know what she does.
And she doesn't deserve her husband. Her husband's that's the best husband in the world.
I don't know.
I like him.
Oh, well, I don't.
That's the Jew. She says it. I quote. I'm becoming a Jew.
I don't think that she doesn't deserve her husband.
They seem really happy together.
They do seem very happy together.
The tiny
I will give you that.
segments of the film that we get of her, I don't think it's not that I don't think we have enough to judge her. As in her relationship, right? We see them have a kid.
Right.
She protects her child a bunch.
Well, they don't have a kid.
Well, they adopted.
They adopted because I guess in the show they were trying for a really long time to have a kid and they weren't able to do it. So I think one of the plot points is them deciding to adopt and then going through that whole process and whatever.
I don't think we have enough to say she doesn't deserve her husband.
Okay, you know what? I'll reel that back a little bit.
They are very, very happy.
I'm okay with reeling that back a little bit. She sucks. She sucks. He's great. She sucks. He's great. Whatever. If they're happy.
Right.
I guess that's where I'll leave that. Is that everyone? Have we touched everyone at this point?
That's everyone.
Well, we haven't
we
touched
missed
St.
anybody?
Louis.
The assistant.
Yes.
I mean, we kind of touched on St. Louis.
She showed up for 6
token-
months to help Carrie, you know. I'm here to fix your life. Now I'm gonna go get married. Bye.
Yeah, token black character. She comes in and there's a point that is very, very, very insensitive to cross-dressing, to anyone who likes to cross-dress.
Oh, yes.
When Carrie is interviewing for the assistant job, which Luis ends up getting, one of the guys has like a master's degree and has worked for some huge accounting firm. Something I don't think it was JP Morgan, but it was something like JP Morgan, right? For a lot of years. Super, super well qualified, right? Types at like 95 words a minute, some shit like that.
Yeah.
And she goes, so why do you want this job? And then he like motions her down, and she looks under the table and sees that he's wearing
Pink high heels, yeah.
Pink high heels. And he just like says some line about how he also loves fashion.
Yeah.
And
she makes
a horrible face and doesn't hire him over that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is wrong
if
with you?
anything, that should be like, you're my friend. Like, what?
I feel like if your gay best friend found out about that, he would hit you.
Yeah.
He would hit, and you would deserve it.
Yeah.
Like, that's so messed up. I don't know, that bothered me.
You're a man who likes girly things? Get the fuck out.
Yeah, that was a very, very poorly aged moment of that. It's right in line with the rich, preppy, terrible person narrative, but I shouldn't root for a character who you know does something like that, and this movie expected us to do that, and I didn't like it. So then Louise actually is the one who gets the job. She's great.
And then she leaves.
Yeah. And they all figure out their problems.
Yep.
And the movie ends.
And they just look at you and say, we just wasted your life.
Yeah, and there's another cheesy line. There's tons of cheesy lines of dialogue and terrible.
We write our vows, but we make our own rules. And I just wanted
What was the one that we all...
We write our vows, but we make our own rules. Made me want to throw up.
That was before we started drinking. There
I
was
don't know.
one
There's a
where
lot
we
of
all
bad
literally
ones,
just went and grabbed our drinks without saying anything.
There was a couple moments like
Yeah.
that.
It was a bad pun. That's all I remember about it.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I remember what you're talking about, but I don't know. All right, I think we've exhausted everything about this movie at this point. Are we all on the same page here?
Yep.
This or Valiant?
Valiant.
No, Valiant wasn't last week.
No, that was last week.
Last week was Hitman.
Hitman.
Oh.
And I'll watch
Hitman.
Hitman. All right.
Unanimous.
Does anyone have any closing thoughts before we finish this bad boy up? I would say watch this movie as a study of what people thought was relevant in the 2000s and what people thought was super popular in the 2000s, to the point where a lot of audiences actually ate this shit up.
Well, and I think it's an interesting look into
a different time, really.
Well, into a different culture and background than like where we're from.
Right, and it's in a way that people weren't expecting, right? When you think of different culture and different background, you're like, oh yeah, the Italian, culture is like this, the Spanish culture is like this, right? The Jewish culture is like this. No, it's rich white New York culture is truly its own culture.
Oh,
right?
I saw online that Samantha worked at Dairy Queen during her teenage years.
Oh, so she kind of came up from nothing too.
Yeah, I think
Good
they
for her.
all.
Well, I
kind
mean,
of,
her at least I can wrap my head around it because she was independent the whole movie.
Yeah.
Carrie's just fucking self-centered as shit. And so is Samantha technically, but at least Samantha isn't afraid to admit that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's that.
This was 2 hours and 25 minutes of my life.
I'll never get back.
That I'm never gonna get back. But like I said, if you're ever doing a report on the toxicity of female characters,
And also toxic mentality of subtle racism in 2008, which was really only like 12 years ago. So you're sitting there like, oh, hey, that's kind of a fucked up thing to say.
Yeah,
and
I
they
get
just
that
glaze right over it.
This is supposed to be like maybe an embodiment of like an empowering thing for women, but I feel like it doesn't do a very good job of it.
It empowers women to...
Specifically white, well-privileged women. It feels like.
Yeah.
It also kind of feels like it kind of,
like, I don't know, to make
also
the mistakes and then it'll all be okay because somebody else will
fix it.
Yeah.
Or then there's just also the fact, I guess, like a lot of times, like the women, they just attacked each other. You know,
Right.
for faults versus the guys are like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The guys all went and self-reflected very quickly.
Yeah, they went, here's why I'm wrong.
And said, here's what I need to do to make myself a better person.
And the whole thing just kind of just smacked of like a lot of sexism where it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Messed up.
It was very, like I said, as a study, It's a fun movie to watch, but that's about it. It's not a genuinely entertaining movie for me, and I don't feel like it would be for a lot of female audiences today either. To be honest, I think my girlfriend would like it for the fashion bits, and that's about it.
Fashion. There's like the
fashion?
montage of her trying on the dresses.
Well, I mean, just throughout it, all the fashion is very, out there. Throughout the entire movie.
I will say, I just
like
hated
that.
how she would just always casually
Wear some bougie ass shit.
just on a regular day, and then just even like when she's supposed to be bummed out, she's still wearing like a full fancy dresses and sweaters. Like, I'm sad now, and I'm like, shut up.
That's fair.
Show me
I'm
sweatpants and a
sad
t-shirt,
now.
and then I'll believe you're sad.
Also fair.
That's true.
Alrighty. This has been a very angry episode of Jabbermouths. Much angrier than I thought it would be going into this movie.
Yeah.
But it's been an episode. I'm JD.
I'm Barrett.
I'm Ethan.
And we will see you fabulous people next week.